Hi everyone, Dr. Costa here. Welcome to this quick tutorial on how to use SPSS for your lab. Let's get a few things out of the way before we get into the nitty-gritty of the video. There are two assumptions that I make about this video. Right? The first assumption is that you have gone to the website, either from the CATS website, or you have gone to the website I sent you a link to, and you have purchased and registered SPSS on your machine at home, or that you are at a computer lab at Wright State and you have access to SPSS, right? So that's the first assumption. Basically, I assume that you have SPSS ready to go on whatever machine you're going to use. The second assumption is that you have downloaded all of the files that are necessary to complete a lab, and there are two files, which, by the way, you're going to get from Pilot. So whenever there is a lab and I'm going to send you the information, I'm going to send you two documents. First, I'm going to send you a PDF document that contains the lab instructions and questions themselves, right? So that's a PDF that says, hey, here's this question, answer it this way, blah, blah, blah. So I assume that you got that from Pilot. The other document that you're going to get is a .xlsx file. So it's an Excel file which contains the data that you will use to answer those questions. And that's also going to come on Pilot. So the assumption that I have is that you have gone to Pilot and you downloaded the questions themselves in the PDF, and you downloaded this data set and you put it on your desktop. And I suggest you download it to your desktop for ease of access, but if you're familiar with your computer and all the folders that you create, you can download it to wherever you want, as long as you can get there when it comes to uploading it onto SPSS, right? So the short of it is you should know where you downloaded this file to, because we're going to have to navigate there in order to import it into SPSS. So if you have met those two assumptions, if you have SPSS and you're good to go and you have downloaded the files that are necessary, then you can watch this video and you can learn how to use SPSS for the purposes of this lab. So let's get to it. Okay, so here we are. Here's my desktop, and we have two things here. I kind of cleaned up the desktop just for you. You have a file over here. You can see that's the file with the data that we're going to need that I downloaded onto the desktop. And here there is an icon to call SPSS, right? So it's a shortcut. I'll click on that. SPSS should load. And you will load. You see this splash screen, and then you're going to get this funny looking thing over here. Now, mind you, if you're logging in for the first time, you might get a different window that pops up that asks you a few things, and at the bottom left corner it says click here if you don't want to see this again, and you can click on that and you never get that again. All you're going to do is you're going to end up directly in here. So let me move this a little bit to the side. Here it is. Here is the data set, and here is the SPSS window, right? For you to load this data onto SPSS, it's actually quite straightforward. You're going to click on File, then you're going to click on Import Data, and you're going to go here to Excel. Right, so here it is. You're going to click on File, then you're going to click on Import Data, then you're going to click on Excel. So there it is. Let's do that again. File, Import Data, Excel. You're going to get this window over here. So you went straight to the desktop, as you can see right here. You see, now if it doesn't, you're going to have to navigate there, and you can use these buttons to go either up or down in order to find it. In my case, it went straight to the desktop. You can click here and you can go, to other places, and you can navigate to where your file is, depending on where you put it. So let's do that one more time, just so you can see. Right. File, import data, Excel. You get this window over here. I'm going to click on Tariff, Open, and then a new window is going to pop up, and it's going to ask you which data set do you want to load from this file. So an Excel file can contain as many data sets as are necessary. If you have 3 questions in your lab, you're going to get 3 separate data sets. If you have 5 questions, you're going to get 5 separate data sets. In this case, since it's just an example on how to load data, I just put one single data set in this file. It's a file called tariff, and the data set itself is called tariff. So it's going to ask you here which data set you want to load, right? So we're going to click here, and it says tariff data set. You click on that. There's going to come, when you're doing a lab, they're going to come with various names. They could become, the name could be question 1, the name could be a name that is referencing the question, or whatever. You just have to match the data set here to the question that you're being asked. So you're going to click here on tariff, right? Select tariff, click OK, and it's going to load. It's going to do a few funny things. Another window is going to pop up, and then you get this new window over here with the data set, which is a single variable, as you can see, this variable called support for the band. That's how you will load the data set onto it. Okay, so now on to the analysis. You're going to need this data set in order to answer questions about how many people do this or how many people do that, how many people score this much, whatever the question is being asked. To do that, you're going to need a few universal things. You're going to need to know the mean, the mode, the median of the data set. You're going to need to know the standard deviation of the data set. And you're going to need to know if this data set is normally distributed. These are the things that we need in order to use the tools we've talked about and answer questions. So we're going to use SPSS to compute all of those numbers for you. How do you do that? That's actually quite simple. You're going to go over here. Once you've downloaded the data set and it's in there, you're going to go here on Analyze, and you click on Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, Frequencies. Right there. Right? Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, Frequencies. So we click on that, Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, Frequency. You're going to get this other window over here. In this window, it's going to ask you which variable do you want to calculate. We're going to use this only variable, right? Support for band. So you take this variable, you click on it to highlight it, and then you click on this arrow over here to dump it into this variable box. That's the first thing. All right, so now the computer knows that it needs to use this variable to compute the standard deviation, to compute everything else. So then it needs to know which statistics do you want. So you go here and you click on Statistics. Another pop-up window will come up. Here it is. All right, so here you have the frequencies that it can compute. We're interested in the mean, we're interested in the medium, and we're interested in the mode. So you're going to click on all of these: mean, medium, and mode. Okay, then we are also interested in the standard deviation. So you come down here and you click on standard deviation and you click on continue. So these are all the 4 things you're going to have to click on: standard deviation, mean, medium, and mode. Click continue. Okay, you're still not quite there. We're almost there. Turn off the display frequency tables. We don't really need that. That's just going to clutter your output. So turn this off. Then go to charts over here and click on charts. On charts, it's going to ask you which charts do you want. We are interested in one specific chart, which is a histogram, which it will tell us if this data looks like normally distributed. We can actually do one better. In SPSS, we will draw like what is the closest distribution to this data set. So you will look at the histogram and say, if we have to basically look for a distribution, this is the closest one, right? So you click on here, show normal curve on histogram, and it will compute what a normal curve would look like for this data set. All right, so now you're done. You click on continue, right? So here it is. You're going to click on chart type and everything. All right, continue. Now you're done. Click on OK, and SPSS will process this all for you. So this other window will pop up and you're going to get this outcome, right? So here are some of the outcomes that we're interested in. The first one is this one over here. And that is all the stuff that we need. The number of observations right here, 700. The mean, 5.48. The median, 5. The mode, 5, and the standard deviation, 0.597. Specifically, we need the mean and we need the standard deviation. right? We don't really need the mean, the medium, and the mode, but it's good to get that just because you can see that the mean and the mode and the medium, they are really close to one another. They haven't exactly collapsed onto itself. It's not the very identical number, but they're close. 5.48, 5, and 5. So they did converge here, but they're close to converging. And this should give you a hint that this data appears to be normally distributed. But if you want further validation, you take a look at the histogram that was produced. And here's the histogram. There's a few bars, and this is the line that I mentioned that SPSS produces in order to approximate the closest distribution, which is a pretty normal bell-shaped distribution. So what you walk away with is basically that this data set is in fact normally distributive for our purposes. We can use this data set. We can assume that it is normally distributed, and therefore all those properties that we're interested in, they apply. The values that you will need to answer the question, they can be found right here. Right? You see mean, standard deviation, and number of observations, 5.48, 0.597, and 700. So with that in mind, you can take these three numbers, you can go back to the question, and you can use them in order to answer the lab question. And that concludes our lecture here. You can do this as many times as there are questions. For every question that you have, you're going to go over there, upload a data set, select which data set that you want, load it in, go on Analyze, click the descriptive statistics, go through the selection of which ones do you want, click OK, go to this table over here, verify that the data set is in fact normally distributed, get these numbers that you need, the mean, the standard deviation, the number of observations, and you can go on and you are now ready to answer the question. Okay, so that concludes this video tutorial. I'll see you next time.